Good afternoon, and welcome to another session of our STCC 101 Survive and Thrive series. Sessions are designed to help you succeed. I'd like to welcome you all today. I am James Lightfoot, the coordinator of Academic Advising and Transfer Center. Thank you all for taking time out to join me and the great Division of Student Affairs today as we share some valuable information we hope to help prepare you for your futures. Right? As you'll see, today's session is entitled, What to Do with This Degree, right? And it'll be more conversational on how to plan for life after receiving your degree. And I plan to share a few experiences and, of course, some resources for you as you transition on past your academic career, right? Please use the chat in the Q&A box if any questions come about. I will have some time set at the end for you to ask any questions you may have about transitioning from this point of your academic experience to the next. So I will begin. So what to do with this degree? Let's make sure this works here. All right. Just a little introduction about myself and why I've selected this topic here today. So as I shared in the beginning, I'm James Lightfoot, the coordinator of the Academic Advising Transfer Center at Springfield Technical Community College. I am a graduate of Grand Valley State University in Allendale, Michigan, where I received a Bachelor's of Science degree in Public Administration, as well as a graduate of Springfield College, where I received a master's degree, Master's of Science in Organization Management and Leadership. My purpose and interest in today's topic is very near and dear to my heart, and may quite possibly resonate with you and where you stand today as a student or as someone who has graduated and trying to figure out what to do next. Today, I hope to share with you some personal anecdotes and some life lessons as well, and some strategies and resources on how you can put that degree to use. Besides having it in a nice frame on a wall or in your office. So, a little statistic here for you. And many of us who graduate and look to transition on into a career fit this statistic. And it simply says, there's a myth that if you have a college degree, you have a job. The fact is approximately 53% of college graduates are unemployed or working in a job that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. It takes an average college graduate 3 to 6 months to secure employment after graduation. Student benefits from having a career-seeking strategy and previous work experience. And this remains true. So, as you can see in those photos, I am one of those 53%. And over 2 decades ago, I found myself in a similar position, which I will share with you later. But over 6 major changes, plans to transfer to 3 different institutions, studying abroad, and then really uprooting my entire life for what I thought would be a dream career, all shifted because of a few factors. And I'll share those as we go throughout this conversation. So as I started my college experience over 2 decades ago, I thought I had a clear vision of what I wanted to pursue and where I would end up. I went to college on the idea or goal to become a veterinarian. Wanted to work with animals in an animal hospital for a few years, and then potentially open up my own practice. I wanted to study, following that veterinary medicine dream, I transitioned and wanted to study animal behavior to determine what made animals act the way they did in the wild versus how they performed in captivity. I thought that would be a very interesting career, and that I'd make like a difference in the world studying animal behavior. I then transitioned to wanting to study the behavior of people, and to figure out what made them behave in certain ways based on the different things and experiences they had throughout life. You would think all these changes and transitioning that would be enough, right? That's almost 3 majors there. But I didn't stop there, right? My career goals and interests continued to change. I transitioned about another 4 times to business marketing, information technology, computer science, and then I finally landed in what I was able to find a great foundation in, and that was public administration. Now, one may ask, why would I have so many career interests or do so many major changes? And my answer is quite simple. My interest. I had a lot of interest when I went into college, after getting some experience in some introductory courses, speaking with career services, talking with my peers, finding out what they were doing and the types of things they were studying. And my interest started to broaden and grow more, and really trying to find that career path or industry that would fulfill all these things I was interested in became challenging. And so I started to, it was like a buffet. I wanted to sample everything to really make a decision on what I wanted to do, not knowing what the degree opened me up to, right? Or the potential it had. I started my academic career off thinking I wanted to help animals and make a good salary. But as my major and interest changed, and knowledge of potential salary increases after attaining a job, the opportunities became more plentiful. At least that's how it was being described to me from some individuals who I was visiting or working with in the career services office. Every time I visited the career service office, I would advise on all the possibilities of jobs that would be present in various career fields. I had many interests and took a lot of those career interest exams or surveys, if you will. And every time they presented a different outcome with an option I liked, attached with a very good salary. I would then go on to inquire about changing my major to fit that career industry or opportunity. There was also a little knowledge of what it would take or require towards the end of completing one of those degrees to enter into that career path. As I was sharing my interests, I was interested in science, solving problems, helping people, technology. I'm a creative, so creating things, designing, learning and coordinating processes, sports, art, music, animals, community service, volunteerism, youth development, issues around homelessness and poverty, domestic violence. I'm trying to diminish that. Education, the list goes on and on. There were so many things that I became interested in, and I wasn't really sure that degree was going to put me in position, or the majors that I was looking into would put me in position to fulfill all those things. But luckily, those interests led me to this place where I am now, working in advising, working with young people or students who are transitioning to look into various career opportunities. Helping folks to find their passion, find their purpose, and helping them to position themselves for future success. So, a little myth about college degrees. You all may know this or have come about some of these in your daily walks and talks with your peers, right? So, graduating college means you automatically walk into your career field or job. That's not so. And as we read that statistic in the beginning, 53% of graduates say different. Something about another about your college degree, right? So you have a college degree, so you're grown, you don't have to live at home. Not so much. Not if you don't get a job right after college. So going back home to get some stability is not that bad. At least helps buy you some time to get into that career. And home is where you may get some other support that you didn't receive while you were in college, right? Your knowledge alone will be enough for you to land your ideal job. Not so, right? You can be very smart, but there's a very key factor that I will talk about soon that plays a big role in you landing that ideal job, right? Grades don't matter. Is something that I've heard or experienced working with folks who are transitioning to their career path, thinking like, I got all C's, I got my degree, I'm good, but the reality of that is you may not have all the skills you need or you didn't master them enough to really fulfill the duties required or expected of you in a selected industry or job opportunity. Organizations you join in college don't exist past college graduation. So many people join organizations or community groups or social groups in college and think after they walk across that stage that there's no longer any benefit. I'm a part of an organization that many people still will question and say, hey, you still do that? And it exists far past, the number of years you are in college or in your academic experience. All the activities you participate in don't matter after college. They definitely do. And it is those activities that you participate in that help mold and shape and sharpen your skill sets, right? And so keep those in mind and take those opportunities serious because you don't know what may present itself, as an opportunity or a skill set needed for a future job. And then the last thing is everyone is getting a job when they graduate college. It's impossible, right? So as I shared with you, over 2,700 people graduated the day I completed college. And I know for sure that there were not 2,700 jobs available for all those new graduates. The reality is there may never be enough supply for the demand as it relates to entering into your career. So you have to be very resourceful and find different opportunities that will buy you time until you land that ideal job. So I talk here about selecting a major or entering into a career path and a little equation I've created that it may hold up in many places, at least for me when I working with students and folks who are looking to change their career or enter into a career. This is what I tell them, right? About selecting a career path that fits. And when selecting a career, one can't be 4'8" with the desire to be an NBA player, right? Not in today's NBA, right? And so you have to make sure that the career fits, this equation, right? And so your personality, your desired lifestyle, passion, skill set, um, all the things that you are need to be able to fit within that opportunity or that entity. Likewise, that entity needs to be able to receive and accept and offer you all the things that you expect and desire. And I speak to this a little more in depth as we talk about finding a fit, right? And so your personality is key, right? You're bubbly, you're fun, or you're more reserved and shy. Making sure that industry will fit, um, you know, who you are and how you move throughout the world, right? Can't be a shy person going into a field that requires you to be an extrovert and out in the community and outgoing and, the loudest voice in the room in some cases. So make sure you find that space that works best for you so you can be successful in it, right? Your desired lifestyle, right? So a lot of folks want to go for money, right? So I want a big house, nice car, things, a wardrobe, and all these things that come about as a part of your lifestyle. Making sure that career or that opportunity is going to match that. And then going back to your personality, make sure you are the person who can handle what comes with those opportunities and that lifestyle you desire, right? Make sure the career path matches your passion. As I was sharing all of my interests, finding something that's really going to allow you to work within those things or increase the opportunities for you to really to engage with those things you're interested in, right? And questioning, right? Are your passions going to be fulfilled through the job opportunity? Are there certain issues that you want to affect change on? And if so, would you be able to engage in those in the career path, right? Not having, a career goal in one direction, what your passion and interests are totally opposed to that, so just making sure those things align when selecting your career path, selecting your major, so that you can be successful. And the last piece of this is your skill set, right? Not often do we assess the skills we have for a particular job or opportunity that that comes our way. And so it's very important for you to always do an assessment of your skills, sometimes writing them down and keeping a tally on new skill that you attain or one that you think is very common that's not that important. Really identify it so that in the event someone asks you, what you're really good at, you can really name out these skill sets that you have. They then may benefit you in the future, right? And you'll figure out how you can apply those skill sets to different opportunities, right? I'm going to share an example here. I often meet with students who are interested in the sciences or in STEM programs and not sure the interest that you all have here who've joined us today. But I'm going to take it from the background of a scientist, right? And a scientist who no longer wants to work in the science field, right? So they think about what skills do they have that can then transfer to another career path. And I'll let you think on that for a moment. Think of the industries that you're looking to go into or that career goal or that opportunity that you're looking to apply for soon. What skills do you have that are transferable that may be different from your degree? So we'll look at some skills from a scientist or a science background, right? And so quite naturally, I did some research to see what are those top skills that scientists have. On our left here, there are four that I identified that showed up a lot when looking up top science skills. Here on the right, there are the 7 top professional science skills as noted by Northeastern University. And these are skill sets that they have identified from the students that they admit and graduate. And so we'll look at the left side: observation, classification, measurement, prediction, and forecasting. All right, you may not consider yourself as these skill sets of your own, but they very well may be. Observation, very basic skill. You know how to look at things and identify them, can speak to how they are created or what they consist of. You have great observation skill, an eye for detail. You can tell the colors and the kind of nuances that are a part of it. They're smooth or rough. You're able to describe them by looking. And as a skill set that many may overlook, but is one that is necessary in many industries, right? Classification or classifying, right? Being able to use that observation skill to notice similarities or differences or things that are not the same are very key skill sets. So then you're able to then differentiate different types and styles and share and communicate about those. The measurement, right? So no one ever thinks like, oh, I can measure, right? But that's a skill set when you're talking about data, when you're talking about design, and creating different opportunities. If you're working in, what's really big now in our health industry, foods or different volumes of medicines that you would take, or weights, weight and like size or how many ounces. Like, so being able to measure is important, right? So if you're opening up a coffee shop or something that's somewhere that serves beverages, that skill of measurement will come into play. And this last one I'll talk about here on this side is like prediction and forecasting, right? Very good skill set to have in marketing and sales, right? But you're saying, I'm a scientist, what am I selling? But if that scientist transitions to a new career, they know that they have some skill sets that will transfer easily. And I'm sharing these so that you can identify, I can't find a job in my degree path. What skill sets do I have that will transfer, right? Here on the right side, we'll go down. I don't have to give too much explanation. Communication skill, key. Teamwork, key. Business acumen, right? So really understanding professional environment, how to present, how you should speak, how to pull things together to make them presentable, really understanding order and direction, works in science, works in many other fields. Have self-motivation. Sometimes you're working by yourself, so being able to really push through, right? I could tell you in many career paths in management, in leadership, they ask if you're self-directed, if you're self-motivated, do you require people to give you direction, or are you self-motivated, right? Or do you need something else to motivate you, money or incentives, right? Or you're self-motivated to get the job done. That's a key skill set that will help you put that degree to work, right? Being adaptable, right? Changing environment, changing in product or tools or resources. Having that skill set is key. Being able to manage, right? Without someone telling you what to do, or being able to delegate, yet another skill set. So looking at that degree, looking at all the things you learned throughout your time in class, you start to then say, I can do something different other than that industry that is stated on my degree or that field, right? And the last thing here, critical thinking and problem solving. Probably the number one skill set that scientists must have, but I'll say all of us must have in whatever industry, whether it be marketing, higher education, social services, health, business. I can name them every industry. There's not one where that critical thinking and problem solving skill is not necessary. And I'd go even further to say all these listed on here are skill sets that would be transferable for anyone in any industry. So you throw your cap in the air, the tassels are flying, you've shaken hands, your degrees have been conferred. What do? Big question of everyone's life. If they haven't done their due diligence prior to receiving that degree, right? And the key thing that you're doing to put that degree to work is to network, network, network. I'll say it again. Network, network, network. For 2 years, 3 years, 4, 8, however long it takes you to get that degree, it is very important for you to network. This is one of the most important skills you can develop and apply throughout your college and career journey. And I would say if you do nothing else while you're in college or going through your academic career, you should definitely add the opportunity to learn how to network or to put into practice throughout that time, because it creates so many other opportunities as you move throughout life, right? I could go back and retitle this presentation, right? How do I network with my degree? And the information will still hold true, is that this is one of the things you have to do. And many of those skill sets I shared prior, are in direct relation to the idea or the opportunity to network, right? There's a common saying that it's not what you know, but who you know. And it still reigns true, especially today, where many job opportunities are presented or offered because of some inside track or how someone's able to provide a recommendation for you. All right. Most people will look down on that, saying they're not giving me an opportunity. I'm smart. I have great grades. Look at my resume. But the fact remains that the more someone knows about you and can speak to your skills and have had some personal connection or understanding of your work output, the more official or sort of certifiable you are in their eyes, right? You wouldn't take advice from someone who you've just met with no track record of to, build your house versus, if you had someone who gave you a recommendation, provided you an actual model or actual physical evidence of their work capacity to build your house. You take their word, right? And their recommendation versus that person who you've never seen anything from, but, them saying on a piece of paper that they can do this. And so that's where that network and those recommendations come into play. And I'll say it works the same. That building a network shouldn't be created or waited to happen once you leave college. It should actually happen the first day you set foot on that campus, meeting with your career services, meeting with your advisor, talking to individuals in different offices, talking to your professors. If there's an industry you're interested in, I'll say, Google or however you look up information, find an organization or industry that, will hear you out and you connect with them. And that's where you start building your network that will potentially help you achieve and attain that opportunity that you so desire. So I'll take you back on a moment of my life, December 6th in the early 2000s. I sat in a cold hockey rink, Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Massachusetts. Grand Rapids, Michigan, excuse me. I sat in that arena waiting for the line of graduates to be called up as we took our final walk across the stage as students of Grand Valley State University. Of the 2,700 plus degrees being granted to the undergraduate students, I was possibly one of many who didn't know what was happening Monday morning. I had spent over 4.5 years, about 52 months to be exact, working several campus jobs, taking on internships, becoming a part of the community, joining several social organizations, completing countless hours of community service dedicated towards my interests. And yet I had no plan or no opportunities to walk into my career or desired job following Monday morning. And that rang true for several Monday mornings following that day. And so I'm saying to you today, and I'll continue to say, build the network early and utilize it. And that's probably what's most important here, is that as you built this network of folks to assemble and help you, utilize them, ask questions, talk to them, email, call, text, however you need to communicate to them, your interest, what you're looking for, and see if they know someone or if they're in some capacity can assist you as you go throughout this journey in your career. As I was a student, I had no understanding of this, how important networking was, or what this tool was and how it can be used. I'd heard the word, but it was foreign to me. It wasn't until I had my bags packed, moving back to the east side of the state, that I realized that I had a great network behind me. I just had not used them to their full capacity. So I spent that Monday morning and several Monday mornings following that, sending emails, sending my resume, trying to get recommendations for opportunities that had come about. Had I known that prior, I would have been putting that action into motion well before that December 6th date. As I'm sitting here sharing this with you today, I'm very thankful that I became aware of that a little late in the game, but nevertheless, I realized I had a great network and I need to utilize it. In the process of building your network over the years, and as I have done so, I've utilized that network to not only help myself, but help others to attain the careers and job opportunities that they so desire. And that's the power of building that group of supporters, or people who are going to advocate and support you as you're transitioning on. And my hope today is that with you understanding what it takes to put that degree to work, you're able to attain the opportunity of your dreams. Now, a few resources or tips I'll share with you as we prepare to close and open up for questions. Communicate with your professional or industry network often. That includes your professors, your advisors. If there's an organization or institution you frequent that is in line with what you're seeking to do as your career, build a relationship with them. Ask them questions, how they got started. What does someone do to prepare to enter into a career or industry like this? So that you'll know what you should be preparing for and how you can really put your degree and those courses you're taking to work, right? Connect with the Career Services Office at your institution. They can be a great help. They'll offer those skills assessments and give you some good advice on where to look or what you should consider and think about. Do those skills assessments. They'll present something different every time. And it's very helpful for you to know what you're interested in and what you're not interested in so that you can make the right choices, right? Assessing your degree, right? And so looking at all those classes that you're taking and see what the real skills you're developing as you complete them. And then assess the degree, right? Is it going to present the opportunity that you are hoping to get? And I'll share this with the degree assessment, right? Getting the degree grants you the authority and the confirmation that you have the ability to learn, apply knowledge, and then transfer that knowledge into a different place, right? And so you're building these blocks in order to complete the degree. So that's something that you can think about as you present yourself and share your skills. I have the ability to learn. I have the ability to apply the knowledge that I've learned to different industries. And I can then transfer those skills or that knowledge into different environments or into different settings. And that becomes the power of you using that degree and putting it to work, right? Last couple of things are some online resources that have been used, and I always advocate for students to use or anyone looking to enter a career field. And so we have the Career Coach a system on the Springfield Technical Community College website that you can use to look for work opportunities, help build your resume, look up the different programs that we offer, different careers, and then take some of those career assessments to make sure that you're doing what fits with you best, and it's going to meet what you are looking to do as an outcome. As well as mynextmove.org is another site I reference to students often. And it's real simple. You can type in their search menu what you want to be, and it can be as little as like, I want to design golf balls, and it will put you on the path to what school you should, what schools offer that, what skill sets are needed for that industry, and where you might be able to, look for employment afterwards. And so those are two, I'd say, very key sites I would use. There are hundreds of them out there. These are two I recommend, but do your due diligence, see what works for you so that you're able to fulfill the goals you've set for yourself in entering into your career. All right. And if you have questions, talk to an advisor, talk to a career counselor, a career coach, and they can then help guide you into the next steps of your career. All right. I want to say thank you so much for joining me this afternoon for this talk. Hopefully it was helpful for you. No one has any questions. Again, I thank you. Continue to tune in to upcoming sessions we may have for this series. Again, if you have questions about what to do next, do meet with an advisor or talk with a career coach in your institution or in your community. There are many resources out there for you to put that degree to work if you don't land in your career field. All right. Again, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you around campus or in a conversation in the future. Be well.
Springfield Technical Community College, STCC.